Order. If you'll stand with me, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States No, if you're an FFA person, you know how to say the pledge. Right?
Yeah.
There's not a pause in there.
now.
No pause in there, but everybody puts a pause in there. And if you do, it's okay. But we were always taught not to.
That's right.
It's hard to break that. Anyway, okay. We do have a quorum. Need a motion to approve the agenda as it is.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Guthrie.
Second.
Second, Ms. Millfeld. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. We have no one signed up for public comment, correct?
Correct.
So we're ready for our consent agenda items. On our consent agenda would be the approval of the minutes from the last meeting from October and the financial statement. If it's okay, I'd like to pull the financial statement off, so we're just going to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Motion to approve
Just the
consent
minutes.
agenda, which is just the minutes from the last meeting. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Guthrie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Ready for bills? Our most wanted part. They all love it. They get to the bills. Any discussion on the bills from anybody besides me? No?
We
Nobody?
really hate to break trees.
Come on now. Somebody's. As I always say, my concern, there are certain things that just pop out, and I need some questions, and they're not meant to for anybody or to hurt anybody's feelings, but just so clarification, it's all it's for. My concern with OT, and it still is a concern for OT of where we are on expenses there. Our budget is 15,500, and we're at 14,600 right now, and we got 7 more months of school to go. So, just saying, we need to be aware. Okay, and I talked to Amy a little bit about this and Dr. Caffey this afternoon on this Edmentum bill. So, Mr. Shaw, Mr. Clark, helped me a little bit. Last month we paid like $7,000 to Edmentum for something, and then MOCAP, and then this month we're paying $6,250 for library, and the library is for the 50 licenses that we need or think we need.
No. Yes, so we may not at all times have all 50 of those filled,
Right
but depending on
now,
our credit recovery goes through that.
okay,
foreign
so
language.
credit recovery goes to that. Foreign language goes to that, and foreign
And-
language is Spanish.
There's quite a selection.
Whichever one.
But I mean,
French, they pick. Japanese is on there.
it's our students are picking
They pick. Yeah, they pick
a
their.
list of whatever foreign language we're talking about. Okay, so it's not, we don't limit them on what foreign language they can pick. Is
Correct.
that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, other than whatever Edmentum
I understand.
can offer. Yeah.
Okay.
And then also our health and personal finance classes are through that.
Okay, so personal finance is through Edmentum.
Yeah, and health as well.
So all our kids as sophomores have to take personal finance,
Yeah,
or juniors or whatever.
yeah. It's a graduation requirement.
Yeah. Okay, and no one on staff teaches that class.
No, currently no.
Okay, all right, and then, so 50 licenses is for the whole year, or is that for just a semester?
I believe that's a whole year. That will end on the 9th of next August.
And we can use 50 at any time for the whole year, anytime we
Right.
need to. Just can't use more than 50.
At a time. Yeah.
I understand.
And so, one, like the one license that Dr. Caffey may be using to take health, when he finishes that, he could take a algebra recovery class, and it still counts as one license.
Right.
You know, so,
We're using one spot.
yeah,
It's almost like
yeah,
50 spots.
Essentially, it's a spot. Yeah,
More like spots, right?
yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and we also have like $1,700 that we're sending out to Springfield for, what's the name of that? Launch.
Yeah.
And how, that's different than this?
Correct. Yes, sir.
So launch is
different
for,
than Edmonton.
Launch is for Spanish, and it includes a interactive with the teachers.
so most of our kids taking Spanish is through launch.
Right, and so it's gives a higher success ratio because you have a teacher that can interact, they can answer.
So this launch bill, is that for a semester or is that for the year?
That I don't know.
And that one I would have to check, but I would say semester.
I would probably
Off the top of my
agree
head, I
for
would say
being that,
I think that's all.
being that
whatever's
deep.
sent out. Because you would know, these are kids currently enrolled, correct? Probably.
I believe so.
I have a quick question about it.
that is just first semester.
You said it ends the 9th of August, 2022. So could they take it in the summer school?
The Edmonton.
Mhm.
We have 50 licenses for the whole year. Okay,
Yes, sir.
all right. See what else we got. Security cameras, to be put more up, or we just
Yeah,
finishing,
there was, we're
finishing what we
finishing
had?
it
or-
up. They had to rerun some cable because the cable that we had did not work with the cameras they put up. They've actually been here working on
The
that.
cable we already had there, you mean?
Yeah,
So they wouldn't
they
work to that?
couldn't use that cable,
Okay,
and so they had to rerun
so
some
it
other
wasn't a
cable.
mistake anybody made, it's just,
No, it's
just our equipment, our equipment wasn't gonna work with their
Right,
equipment.
and then I think they added 3 cameras, and then that boosted the need of the service up
Yeah.
a little bit. So,
Yeah, I understand, just
yeah,
stuff.
which he came this week, and he's just about done with everything. They're just trying to get the last 2-3 cameras up online.
Okay. Okay.
I think for 62.
Now, I noticed that we bought a car for $9,300, which is, we knew that, we knew that.
We talked about that before.
Right.
Mhm.
I'm assuming we have a sign out for that.
Mhm.
So if somebody needs it, they sign out, and they're keeping track of mileage.
There's a mileage
that.
sheet in the seat of the car, and anybody that takes it out writes who it is, where they're going, what the purpose is.
We have that in the office too, probably, so we know
Well,
who's
it's
in the
in-
car.
Well, they've got to
You have
check
to
the
come
key
check,
out.
you have to come check the key or
Yeah,
something,
they
right?
have to come get the key.
It's just, I don't want it to become something that we just run to Raleigh in because we want to run to Raleigh. I want it to
No.
be used for school purposes only or whatever.
Mhm.
And then it's easy to get misused, so I want to just keep
Lonnie has a key.
it.
Lonnie has a key. He uses it to run and get parts for
Sure.
things, and
Well,
then
that's kind of what it's
uh,
for. To some degree. Okay. The BSN expense, can you tell me how many shirts that was? Now, so I assume we bought a lot of shirts for Meet the Wolves. So does the junior class sell those shirts? Because they didn't usually use all those shirts. Sure. Sold them? Okay,
You mean for the kiddos?
yeah.
Yeah, no, they sold more than just the ones for the kids.
So we probably, it looks to me like we bought the shirts from BSN and then we had Raleigh RTI screen them. We have,
No, those were separate. Those are two totally different. Some of the classes ordered their own shirts,
Mhm.
and then junior class was the ones that sold them outright. So yeah, you will see a couple different things in there. A class may have ordered their own individual for their Meet the Wolves.
The ones that
Design.
the ones that they sold were the ones that had all 4 years on them. They'll have everybody.
and those funds,
on there.
Freshman
those
through
funds are
senior.
for the junior class.
Say that again.
The funds or profits are for the junior class.
Yes, everything is
For
coming to their SA
prom or
account.
whatever.
Mhm. We get that.
And who approves the purchases of those shirts? Like, does the sponsor bring that requisition to you? Sponsor of junior class, or
Yeah.
how's that work?
Yeah, sponsors will present it to the principals, and then we submit that on the central office.
Calculate how many shirts that was?
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
sure am.
Okay.
It's like 98 on the front page. And there's quite a few.
It was
back
like
there.
150.
I was gonna say 148.
149.
Does that sound
Our,
right?
our quota mark for price change was 144, so we did beat that. So somewhere between there and 150.
Okay.
So
Because I think it was 158, if I can remember,
Yeah.
but
So
I don't
Did
quote me on
BSN
that.
screen them too?
yes, they did.
So
And
you
then
bought a
our-
complete shirt.
Yes, and then at RTI, we had them make our shirts that matched our theme, our Furby duel
For the
for our class.
Just your class.
So
For
just
our
the
30.
class
Yes.
itself.
Yeah, so
Everybody had their
freshmen had a
everybody had their
shirt.
own
Every
thing.
class has their own.
Everybody has their own thing. I understand. And then you sold to the public their 100 and whatever shirts. Is that
And that
All
is
right.
the junior class to pay for prom,
yes?
is what they're doing. Yes.
I understand.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I understand how that all comes together. That explains the RTI and all that. Okay. That's my list. Any other questions on bills? Motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Birdsall. Second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Millfeld. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 5-0. We ready for our administrative reports? Mr. Shaw, Mr. Clark?
I was just going to say just a couple of calendar updates, that other than they won't be in the report that you read. But our theater group will be performing the week we come back from Thanksgiving, so they'll have 3 performances down at the theater in town.
Okay.
And that'll be on the 30th, and then off on Wednesday, and they'll come back on the 2nd and 3rd to perform 2 nights. So
What do they perform?
80s, it's an 80s theme. So I think it's a series of short performances that I know it's an 80s theme to.
Is this Mr. Wisdom? Is this high school kids or junior high? Or?
High school.
Okay.
I heard rehearsal one day coming from here, and it'll make you laugh. So if you want to get a good chuckle, go down and see them perform down at the theater.
Do they get heat?
We do, we're waiting on Poe to set the tank, but the furnace and everything is installed and ready to go.
Because they're gonna need heat.
Yeah.
Next week's gonna be chilly. It's chilly tonight.
That's some chilling water.
You'll want heat down there before you have a performance. Hopefully they'll have that ready. Okay. Anything else on your reports?
I think everything's in the.
How'd PD
report
Day
that
go?
we put out.
How did PD Day go the other day?
Good.
Good.
Um,
I see Marcia Smith was here. She always brings enthusiasm
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, she did.
to a room. Well, that lady has more energy than, I don't know how to explain it.
We
Lots.
had,
I always tell her, calm down.
yeah. We had her working with some, and then we had some at letters training, and then we had another that doing some
Read that.
in the building training.
We've got a lot going on.
Busy.
Lot going on. Okay. Any questions from the board members for the principal's report? Okay. Move on to our superintendent's report.
Just a couple of things to add. We received, this came out of the Federal Programs Conference last week. I didn't attend, but it come out of it that ESSER 3, they have found out has to be appropriated by legislation before any of it can be utilized by anyone in the state. And the legislation has till March 24th to appropriate those funds to out from the state. So we're probably looking at next spring before we actually get to
Request money.
request any ESSER 3 monies.
And that's the big money, right?
That's the big money.
Yeah.
We also had heard that there might be some adjustments on that, but it would be minimal at best.
Have
then-
we used all our ESSER two money?
I just requested 115,000 of ESSER 2 money,
Okay, is that
and it's
finished
338,000
total?
total.
Does that finish up all we had requested?
No, that's just my first request.
Oh, okay. That's your first
So I still have about 215,000 still to request
Okay,
of ESSER 2.
okay.
Plans is to try to request that ESSER through ESSER 2 money throughout the year, utilize most of it, try to save some of the ESSER 3 money, and then start requesting it after we request the ESSER 2. Now, there is some of the ESSER 3 that we will request when it comes available, and that's some of the learning loss monies, because 20% of ESSER 3 has to be directly related to learning loss. So the monies that we give the classroom teachers to spend for learning loss, that they're using this year, that's something that we'll request. But now that's something we'll float until
Yeah, I saw some of the bills is in parentheses, learning
Learning,
loss, so we can
yeah.
go back later.
yeah,
pull those.
Amy's all keeping those tagged so
She's
that
done a nice
whenever
job there.
when it comes open. And we thought, well, what better way to combat learning loss than to get some money to our teachers?
Yeah.
So that's what we've been working on this year. The Grow Your Own grants it's all been approved. We can submit that as soon as we start using some of that budget. The plan on it was some tuition reimbursement, possibly using some funds to set up at some career fairs, send some of our kids to some college visits,
MS&T is working with us to do a dual
credit program.
the next fall.
That'd be good. That's
Yeah.
For what subject?
First, it'd be like an introduction to education for future teachers.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all about growing your own teachers, and so it could be used if paras wanted to work on a teaching degree, or if we had some students that wanted to be involved with that. And then the teacher retention grant, that's all been approved, and what we're using that for is a mentoring program and just some culture building activities and materials to purchase to improve our work on our culture. Lunch and breakfast monies we will not be able to request or receive until after the first of the year.
That's correct.
So we'll be floating all of our lunch and breakfast bills.
Why is that? Why are they holding that up?
Their system was down for a while, and
They would not take that excuse from us if we need to pay them money.
I agree. There's
That never worked as an excuse for me, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
My system is down. Sorry, I can't write you a check.
We
Bring cash.
we just did a Title I request. We just did a special education Part B request. Both those fundings are approved. So we should get those within our next reimbursement, which should be tomorrow or Monday.
So everybody's floating lunch.
Everybody's floating. We're floating. That's why on our finance statement, we're a couple $100,000 now.
Okay, that was gonna be
in
my
revenue.
question later of how come we're way so far down? Now you're
You haven't
making
got any
sense to me.
money
It's
back.
lunch. You
Yeah.
haven't got it back
You
yet.
haven't got anything there. And basically what we've gotten is basic formula, trust fund,
Okay,
our Prop C monies.
okay. So a lot of our reimbursements just aren't there
And
yet.
then 0.5% of our budget is local taxes too.
Sure, I understand that.
So
That's
we're-
coming,
That's coming.
but we
Yeah,
don't
we've
ever
got-
get that till
No.
January anyway, so.
You always need to try to have some in reserve for
Sure.
for
Sure.
for July to December, because you never know when you're not gonna get some of that state money.
The state held June's payment to a lot of therapists and state places this year, paid them in June the 30th, and held it and didn't pay it until the next month. They didn't pay them because they didn't want it to be on that budget. They wanted it to be on the next budget.
So, the first, the August, September, those months are kind of lean. And,
Sure.
And one
That's
thing,
tradition.
Newburg, yeah, and Newburg,
Right.
runs their payroll September to August. Where I don't know what they did at Richland, but I was used to the September was when we first started with our payroll, and it runs September to August. So we've actually got an extra payroll in there too.
July to.
So we actually got that extra month of payroll.
He
in
said
there.
it. He said it the same way two
Yeah.
times. He didn't mean that.
I didn't mean it. It's a month later. Yeah, September to August or
July to.
so you've got an extra month of payroll in there that you got to make too.
Yeah.
But it does come off your back end of things.
Correct.
So
And it's better for the new teachers coming in. who put this money-
absolutely, to get a
money.
check in August.
That's right.
Absolutely, it's tough to work 6 weeks and not see no money,
Mhm.
or longer.
Right. And then you spent money getting your classroom ready.
System's down.
That should look a whole lot different, but it's probably not going to look a whole lot different until about January or February.
Well, that explains why and that's what's 55,000 that we haven't got from lunch yet,
Oh yeah, I'd say at least that,
right?
wouldn't you? I mean, I
And
think we
those-
got
Fruit's the only thing that we've got.
yeah.
And there's half of the 100,000 that were down from last year, just because they're holding on lunch.
And the reimbursement's actually better. We're actually gonna get more reimbursement than what we're billed. So I think it's 418, isn't it?
It's a little over 4, yeah, off the top of my head, I can't remember.
But
Okay.
we're waiting on money.
I understand. I understand the local taxes and all that, that always comes later, but lunch explains why that reimbursement's big money that, it's 25,000
That's a
a
big
month.
expense.
It's 25,000 a month.
It's a big
Not-
expense.
A little more than that. What was it this month? Almost 28? I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's in here. I can't remember. But anyway, big money. Any questions? Our Superintendent's report? Okay. We'll move on to our facilities and construction and the bond there. I see we got a building up. It's even got siding on the side of it. What a deal. Roof,
It's kind of looking like something.
looks like a building.
It's the start.
So getting there. That's good to see. Do they have the inside of the old cleared out yet?
I think it's all cleared out.
Yeah, I think for the most part.
For the most part.
I mean, is it empty?
Yeah.
Completely cleared out? Ready to start?
No, it doesn't necessarily look like it's 100%, but I'd say 90.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
They've got most of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will add on this part, not necessarily on the ag building, but we are working on getting air and heat bids.
Yeah.
We've already gotten one bid in, and we've started at the 2-story and the remodeled room on the annex. And they're looking at split systems. They're looking at central systems where they would build a closet in each room. So they're looking at some different things, and we're trying to get bids apples to apples. And
Yeah.
so we may be calling some of our companies that's already bid for an additional bid so that we could kind of compare these things.
But they all give us the same kind of thing to look at.
Well, I've only got one bid back so far, so we're waiting on the other 2 companies, and the other 2 companies each have their own ideas of what they think might be best for that over there, so they want to bid these type systems. And I said, we want to for sure get a split system bid from everyone, and then if we see some of these other bids, what they're looking like, then we can go back and get bids to match them too. So we're looking at the 2-story first, and I had give you that map last month, and I know I wasn't here to explain it, but the 2-story is kind of the priority. Then we'll move to the elementary, and I thought we'd try to do this in phases. The ag building is on its own. When it's ready for heat and air, we need to do heat and air.
Right.
And then the final phase will be trying to finish up the high school and the annex. Annex has all window units, so I mean it's
Elementary, it's they've
not,
been there since it was built. Some of them
Yeah, there's reaching their lifespan.
are redone 25 years ago. Isn't that about
so
right?
and it's like everything else. If you replace with the same type of systems, it's not as expensive as if you look at re-engineering the whole thing, and so we've got some discussion there to talk about. But I just kind of want to let you know that we are looking at that
And all
heat and
that
air
would be
systems.
by ESSER 3 money?
Not all of it. Some of it will be ESSER 2.
That
How?
Ken's
Oh, okay. I'll finish real quick. Some of it will be ESSER 2, some of it will be ESSER 3, but we have changed all of our ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 to run it through salary so that we can free it up how we want to use it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Some of it will still be bond money.
I understand,
Okay.
but not much bond money.
Not much bond money. And then also, finally, Carl is working with our painter, and he's going to paint the elementary gym over Christmas.
Oh, it needs painting.
So,
That's good.
okay.
Okay, any questions on any of that? We can come back to that in a little bit if we need to. I think we need to go to our audit, right? Ken, are you there? All right, tech dude, you're gonna have to plug him in somehow. Got him?
Hello, everyone.
There you are.
Okay, ready for me?
Ready for you.
Okay. We were there in the last part of August, and 3 of us came, and we came, we saw, we conquered, and Amy, I think, survived the
She
very
did.
first audit.
I am so glad you didn't kill her. Yeah.
Glad she didn't kill us.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a 60-page report. I'm not going to go through all 60 pages, but I do want to highlight some of the activity to make you aware of. Pages 1 and 2 is our audit opinion, which basically is an opinion that says that your financial statements are fairly stated in accordance with your cash basis of accounting. Cash basis of accounting is basically what we call checkbook accounting, where basically you recognize revenues when you receive the deposits, when you recognize expenditures when you pay the check, just like you would at home. So, from that standpoint, it's good, always good to get a clean opinion of your financial statement. The only other thing on pages 1 and 2, there is a comment about the pandemic we had last year, continuing to repeat until the pandemic subsides and there doesn't seem to be any longer any economic risk associated. It's considered to be just too big an unknown contingency for us not to comment on.
Yeah.
The fact that it could have a detrimental effect. Pages 13 and 14 talk about the revenues and expenditures by fund, which is really how you guys manage your school district. Look at those two side by side, you'll see that $2.1 million issuance of bonds. Premium. But overall, fund hadn't been used very much. You had a surplus of $1,983,000 at the end of the year versus $126,000 at the end of 2020.
Right.
The both years were in the black, which was good. You'll see that also your capital expenditures, the construction did start up and did incur $580,000 facility acquisition and construction 2021, whereas the year before you only had 37. Nope. About debt service and long-term debt that the district has. Basically, you have a note payable, a capital lease, and general obligation bonds. If you look at page 23, it'll show you the historical for the last 2 years. You'll see that the energy loan is down to $10,000. Will be paid off, I believe, this year. General obligation bonds. We have the defeasance remaining $40,000, and then we have $1,950,000 of the 2020 bonds that are outstanding. Lease purchase is $32,000 as well at the end of the year. And also on page 23, you'll also see the scheduled maturities of long-term debt, and you'll see that over the next 5 years you're going to be paying a range of $146,000 up to $220,000 the next 5 years per year. And with the debt of $1,950,000, your bonds will be paid off in 19 more years, 2040. But this isn't recorded anywhere else. It's just note disclosure here, financial statements, other than that your cash basis, all we recognize is when the proceeds come in and when you make your debt service payments. So that's what hits your fund balance financial statements. Page 32 was the start of a long pension note, and I just want to highlight, actually page 32 is the end of the pension note. And I want you to look at page 32 if you would. There are two plans, the PSRS plan, which basically is your certificated employees, your teacher fund, and then your PEERS plan, which is your non-certificated employees. You see in the middle of that table there's a current rate of 7.5%. That's how they project the pension liability of the district that hasn't been funded or is short. And you'll see that number is $3.5 million, and for the teachers fund, and $417,000 for PEERS, for a total of $3.9 million. And basically, that's telling you that if the district were to close its doors based on June 30th, 2020 actuarial numbers, they believe that your share would be having to come up with $4 million. Make all your teacher liabilities and employee liabilities whole over the years. And this sensitivity ratio here also shows that if they're wrong in their actuarial estimates, and they only have a return on investment of 6.5%, then that liability goes up to $6.8 million. But if they're wrong on the other side, and it's 8.5%, could be as low as $1.6 million. The other thing I'd like to talk about the pensions is if you'll look at page 35 and 36, this is a proportionate share of the pension liability that isn't funded, but it also shows here in the top table at the top of both pages, the fiduciary net position. So it's saying basically that there are assets in the plan 89.34% in 2014 to take care of those liabilities. But at the end of 2020, that had diminished down to 82%. And that's for the teacher's fund. For the peers plan, it's dropped from 91% the last 7 years down to 84%. So that means that 84 cents on the dollar is in the plan already to take care of the funds. But we're still short, like I say, the $4 million. Page 39 and 40 kind of summarizes the sources of revenues. And it's good to look at that so you know where your money is coming from. It changes every year. This year, of course, local monies were basically the same as the year before in total dollars. County numbers were down $29,000. Your state numbers stayed relatively the same, 2,442,000 versus 2,291. You know, page 40, your federal revenues had the most changes because of the CARES Act and the ESSER fund monies coming in. It offset some of those other revenue shortfalls. And you'll see that we actually received $850,000 during fiscal year 2021 versus $478 2020, which required us basically to do what's called a single audit, which requires us to do testing of some of the federal programs, and that's what we did this year. Threshold for that is that when we receive expenditures, the federal grants are more than $750,000. They're required to be subject to a single audit. And this is the first time in a number of years, I think since 2010, 2011, that you've had this single audit your requirement. And it's probably going to continue probably for at least 2 more years, maybe 3, depending on how you spend your ESSER 2 money and your ESSER 3 monies. I'm sure Randy has it.
Do we get a 2-for-1 charge on that? Is that how we get that? It's a 2-for-1, right? Since you're already here, you just do it all, you just throw it in, right?
Well, what happens is last year out of 25 districts,
You're not even going to answer that.
we had only 8 single audits out of 25 districts, and this year, out of 28 districts, we have 23 single audits.
That doesn't surprise me. But they're simple. It's all federal money. It's real easy, right?
Yeah, it's really easy. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of paper. Yeah.
But fortunately, we don't have to audit every grant. But there are pages, which is why your report is so much longer than it has been in the past. But you know, if you look at report pages starting from it's 50 on, you'll find out that 50 through 59, those are all federal audit requirements that are required. So they want to give you the money, but they don't trust you with the money.
I understand that. That's how it works.
Finally, if we'll go to page 60, which is the very last page, it's kind of a 10-year overview of collected data. And I think it's meaningful. Sometimes it can be a little bit skewed, but you'll see there that your fund balances are $3.6 million, which of course includes a lot of the bond money that's in there, and also probably some ESSER funding money that may not have been spent. So you'll see that that's the highest fund balance you've had in the past 10 years.
Ever.
Your revenues, if you back out 7.5 minus the 2.1, you'd be about 5.3. You see that if you look at 5.3 versus the last 10 years, That would be the highest revenues collected over the years. Your revenue collected was healthy as well. Of course, next year probably have some deficit spending as you'll be using up your bond money.
Yeah.
Long-term debt outstanding with the infusion of the $1,950,000 of new debt, you'll see that you are now a leveraged district to a certain extent. But you did pay it down to 225 before you went into the new bond obligations. So from that standpoint, you were very conservative. You kept your ratios in good shape. Your eligible pupil ADA was at 384 last year. Your September resident 382, and you'll see that it's still on the low side over the last 10 years compared to where the 416 and 412 numbers and it used to be in 9-10 years ago. And finally, your operating fund to balance the expenditure ratio. This is what DESI uses to determine whether or not a district is healthy financially or not. And if you look at 2015, you were at 5.9%. And that's when DESI starts wanting to come in and perhaps say to the board, what are you guys going to do about this? And you see that since then, you guys have been on an uptick. And now you're at 36.36%, which is a little skewed right now, but it's much healthier than the sub 10% numbers that we were experiencing 7, 8, 10 years ago. What DESI believes is that ratio needs to be right at 16 to 17%, which is about 6 weeks worth of cash flow. I believe it should be more like 32 to 33%, which is more like 3 months worth of cash flow to be a healthy school district. But that's my personal take on it. So from that standpoint, you have been healthy for the last 5 years, so you should be commended on that. That you guys are being fiscally responsible as board in managing the money of the district. Are there any questions?
Anything that you saw as concerns that we need to be watchful of?
I think I pretty much said the highlights.
Any ratio there
I believe
that
that,
stepped out at you?
I believe you guys have a new staff of people. So I think it went well from the accounting standpoint. And Randy seems to have a good handle on it as well for the financial affairs. So from that standpoint, I'm very comfortable with where you guys are headed there. I don't know where you're at in terms of the building projects, and how the bids are coming in. That's always a concern. So whether or not you have to be careful so that a lot of times capital projects, you build the buildings and then the infill work gets to be much more expensive than you thought it would be.
Sure.
I would caution you there in terms of knowing what your total project's going to look like in the end, so you don't have to borrow money in the end.
Any questions from the board? Okay. We appreciate it.
Okay, well,
We thank you. I guess
okay,
we'll
let's
see.
drive home then.
Guess we'll see you. Guess you can drive home. Yeah. Guess we'll see you next year.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Don't forget to vote yes for approving the audit. Thank you very much.
We'll do that just in a second. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye bye. questions at all on the audit at all? Let me go ahead and do that first, since it's already here, fresh in our minds. Can we have anyone have a motion to approve the audit for 2021?
Sure.
Motion by Ms. Melfield, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Birdsong. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
He always does a good job with.
Yeah,
He presents
Kent's-
it very well.
He presents it well. Done it for years. You know, it always gets me is they put in there every year, you know, that you only have one bookkeeper. Well, yeah, we only have one bookkeeper. I mean, there's 300 districts that get that same concern. Why you keep writing that? Check and balance. I understand that. Anyway, okay. We moved down to financial statement, so that should be our next thing on the agenda. So we'll stick it in there. Now, my concern was, and it's been addressed, is okay. I know we're about 100,000 below. Well, a lot of that's reimbursable money that we just can't get to yet. So that makes me feel quite a bit better. So that at some point that number's going to get skewed the other way because we'll get all of it. Well, they'll never give it to you. They're back. They'll just partially give it to you over the months.
We should start
That's what-
evening out.
That's what they'll do though. And just, you know, your system was down. It's not my fault. Anyway, that's just how that works. One thing I did have a question for on the financial, Amy, I know we do this thing here where we compare month by month, and that's really nice to see. If you'll look at capital projects, Randy, maybe you can I looked at September and October. And there's a difference there of about $40,000 from last month to this month. Should that be in the bills, or where does that 40 come from? But there's not 40,000 worth of bills out of capital projects.
Let's see, let me look here what you're looking at. Make sure, because I want to tell you the right thing.
I'm only looking at capital projects from the balance. Okay, from the balance line,
Okay.
where October it's 1.49, and last month it was 1.53.
Okay, that money, what happens is it gets, and you're talking the actual balance.
I am. Well, we lost 40 grand somewhere in there, and what would we lose? There's not 40 grand in the bills.
Have to go back and pull everything that was coded to the bond to give you exactly what it is. You normally, though, I always put it on here if it is a bond,
You do.
amount.
But it
Now,
should.
this month's payables won't be,
No, because that's correct. That this is going to be a month behind. So this is always a month behind.
so
So
the
it should have been-
40,000.
it should have been last month.
Bills, yes. So I would have
I
to
know that. I don't know why that didn't register in my mind. Okay. Yes.
because this would be the closing of
Which would have been
So there's-
concrete.
yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
we had concrete,
Well,
rock,
concrete rock, all that stuff that
Mhm.
came in. So it probably was 40 grand. Okay.
So remember your reminder for this month and look at it for next month's thing.
I'll forget every now and then, but I'll try to remember. That makes sense. Motion to approve the financial report
Motion.
by Mr. Birdsong. Is there a second? Second, Mr. Shushank. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Next on our action item is our tabled technology update from Jake Tepter. All right, you're up.
Well, I provided a lot of numbers on the sheets that I handed out. So basically, the big issue that we're looking at is that all of the Chromebooks that we have a lifespan that was predetermined when we got them.
Uh-huh.
They have the automatic update expiration, which causes them to stop receiving Chrome OS updates after a certain point. And that's based on the different model So I'd like to get us onto a life cycle with the Chromebooks where we don't have to be every couple of years have to buy a whole bunch of Chromebooks all at once, and try to get something where we get like a classroom set, have that follow that set of students. And then when they're done with their life cycles, I have two options kind of outlined in that report. One is whether scrap the Chromebooks or use them as backups, because I can give you a couple more details about the auto expiration here in a minute. But the other option is like for graduating seniors, we can allow them to take their Chromebooks with them on graduation. As a way so that we don't have to worry about having a bunch of expired Chromebooks that can't do things like map testing and evaluate testing, and as a way to incentivize students to take better care of their Chromebooks by showing them that they're going to be using the same one year after year and that they get to actually keep it at the end of their school career. So when I looked into a few of our programs that we use, I was able to confirm that at least evaluate testing allows us to use Chromebook OS versions up to the previous year's most recent version. So with the HP 11G5s, which make up about, I think it was 320 of our current active Chromebooks, it expires its updates next year in June. That gives us about an extra year with Evaluate where it will still be functional. After that, it's hard to say. If Chrome puts out another update, they will be out of date, and Evaluate won't let them actually run the testing software on them, which can be a big problem. There are some other ways we can try and finagle things by keeping like a smaller current set that we use as the testing set, and then having students use older Chromebooks, but at the same time, as they start to get older, they just get harder and harder to keep functioning. Over time, they just sustain a lot of damage. The screens start going out, and we can't find the parts to replace them anymore. So because of that, though, we need to also look at doing a partially larger refresh for this year and next year, because we have such a large number of Chromebooks getting ready to hit their expiration date. But we don't have to necessarily do this all at once. I'd like to start getting us onto like a schedule of being able to keep refreshes coming.
So in your mind, your refresh would be how many Chromebooks a year?
So that's where the table 1 on that report shows that if we want to go with trying to get 6 years out of the Chromebooks, that would leave us with only needing to get 2 classroom sets. And the classroom size can be between 30 and 40, depending on how fast and loose we want to play with the numbers. The classroom sizes, I think the average that we have currently was about 35. And I definitely would want to err towards the side of having extras in case of any that break early, or having students enroll after the fact. Having a few more on reserve helps out a lot. So going with the 40 classroom size makes a lot of sense to me. So 80 Chromebooks a year, going with the 6-year cycle, and doing the 2 classroom sets. So there's also the option of going with the 4-year cycle, which then means that you would need 3 classroom sets a year.
Are we using Chromebooks for our younger kids, or
We currently do.
Are we using iPads?
We don't have to. iPads? We don't have iPads currently.
We don't have any iPads. Everybody's on a Chromebook. Are they touchscreen?
We can get the touchscreen ones currently. Kindergarten, first grade, and the peeps have touchscreen ones.
Okay. In your table 2 that you sent us, you have listed how many we bought over the years.
Yep.
And how many are still functional.
Yep.
It says we bought 23 last year. January 20.
So the activation date on there is not the exact date that we purchased them. That was the date that they were enrolled onto our system. I wasn't able to pull information on when they were actually acquired. only when they became activated.
But we bought 23 and we only have 9 left.
Mhm.
It says. So where's the rest of them?
Probably broken. I think that's the set. Is that the one that says it's for the peeps?
Oh, it doesn't tell me.
Okay,
Unless
if it's
I'm not,
the Dell 2
unless
in
I'm not
1,
looking at it right.
if it's the Dell 2-in-1 Touch, I know for a fact that that set does not get used frequently. The peeps, the pre-K doesn't use them every day, so they have like their bottom row typically doesn't even get touched. So
the ones he's looking at are the 11A G6 and 11A G8s.
okay, yeah, I don't actually know why that's.
There's a big discrepancy there. All the rest of them are about right. That one there is huge. There's only 40% of them left, and it's just a year old.
Yeah, that one's a small set. I don't know if they were gotten for something specific, and I don't know if it's just because they're missing or if they were like teacher Chromebooks and just haven't been touched. Since they're newer ones, I can imagine that it might have been that they were once given out to teachers. They got newer ones this year, the same ones that you're using here. And so those ones may have been tucked away somewhere. The way I was able to detect if they're still functional was if they've logged on to our network at all in the.
Oh, okay.
So we may still have
You
those.
didn't
So they may
physically,
still
you didn't
be
physically
broken.
see them. You're looking at logs of when they logged in.
Yeah,
Okay, so you
I
didn't
only have-
physically see. You didn't physically count.
Yeah, there's no way to.
Well, it's really hard when you got 400 Chromebooks to go count.
So all of the ones in the elementary I have gone through and taken stock of, but there's still more. Like we had, I think it was 4 Samsung ones that I've never even seen. Apparently none of them work. I don't even actually know what's up with those. So
Okay. So how are we keeping track of what we do buy?
we enroll them, and that's part of why there's that extra cost for each Chromebook. We have the management software that allows us to track all of them and allows us to do management on them, such as the app block list and allow list, and also being able to track the usage and stuff like that.
Do we have an inventory sheet where we're keeping inventory on all of them?
Yep.
Okay.
That's
And
where I
that-
hold all of the
that's-
numbers on these. So even ones that I've never actually seen before, I know of.
Okay.
And it is also something that I've been wanting to.
What does 80 Chromebooks cost?
It depends on the model that we go with.
60 costs 14.4, it says here.
Yeah.
You've got 60 of them, cost about almost 15,000.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's what the $207 price point. For the
Yeah,
models.
I forget exactly what you
Yeah.
said it was, but you have 60 devices costing 15,000, but you want to get 80 devices. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And that's because on the sheet that I had there, it calculates the numbers out for me. It was printed out at 60. 80 is if we overshoot the number that we think we'll need by a little bit. For a set of 80.
There's a big difference between 60 and 80.
Yep.
Okay.
38,000 for the $200 Chromebooks with the management software for 80 of them.
How much?
38,000.
Then 60 can't be 15.
Uh, 60 is 28,000. Oh, I see where the number is. That yeah, I had that on there before I found out about the license cost was separate. I'm sorry, that's incorrect on there.
So it's 207 plus 34 would be our total per Chromebook roughly.
Yeah,
$250, roughly.
roughly. Some of the Chromebook models get a little bit cheaper. I've seen a few that were about $174.
Where do we order them from?
We have a couple vendors we can pick from. We typically use CDW, which is where most of the numbers that I have listed are from.
So
So
$250.
80, I've got at 20 grand roughly for 80.
That's what I got.
Yeah.
$240
Yeah.
per Chromebook.
So I got 80 computers costing us about 20 grand.
Yeah, roughly $250 a piece.
How much is the REIT?
33. Off the top of my
After
head.
you buy all these through REIT,
I did it the old fashioned way, 19.
we buy these through REIT.
I understand that, but.
What does that mean?
Imagine he-
What does that mean?
I'm sorry.
But I'm
REIT-
just saying,
REIT money is
Whatever.
designated
That's what we
just
use to
for
buy.
technology
Buy
related.
them,
We get
yeah.
33,000.
But you can use that read.
I'm saying 33,000 roughly
Yeah.
because I'm trying to
Yeah, 'cause we
remember
gotta-
exactly, but I believe it's.
Do we use that for other purchases for technology besides Chromebook?
Like TVs and things like that.
Okay.
You know,
Anything,
much-
anything technology.
How much
Yes.
other
we
would
use to read.
how much of that 33 do we spend on things like that? Do we generally spend 33,000 on TVs and things like that each year?
Yeah, the ETV purposes, we have some document cameras on there.
Yeah.
2 of them, about $200 for.
You
So
can
little
also,
ones.
you could have, we could have bought the cameras
Yeah.
on the REAP too. So I mean, there's anything technology improvement update, you can use your REAP money for. So you can always get rid of it.
Yeah.
We're always gonna
Yes.
spend it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if we pretty much designate that for 20 grand each year. So it's 13 grand roughly enough to do what we do with
Yeah.
everything else, or just
Refresh,
thinking here.
refresh my memory, but we bought like 6,000 Chromebooks last year. Not really, but hundreds of them.
We had 2 grants through DESI for technology that had very limited applications. It was, some of it was for mobile internet access, which wouldn't really work in Newburg. And so that's where we bought a lot of those Chromebooks.
Looks like
So that goes out of that
176.
grant.
Are those Chromebooks we can use or we can't use?
We can reuse it.
We are using them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it's actually these ones. Because these are the newest ones that we got last year.
The touch screens.
But I know we bought more than 23 Chromebooks last year.
Down here too.
What am I missing?
The
A lot of them were
the
bought.
touchscreen ones are the X360. We have 126 of them.
And Doug, a lot of them we ordered and it was
Oh, May 20.
months and months before they
I see
came
it there
in.
now. I'm sorry, Mr. Clark.
A lot of them we ordered and then it was months and months.
Yes, I
before they
remember
delivered.
because I complained about it, and then you'd say, "No, we ordered those 3 years ago, and we're just not getting it." Yes, I remember. I
So it
thought
looks
this was
like
all. I
about
thought
half
this
of
was all in
ours are-
chronological order, and it's not. So
Fairly
I didn't see
Yeah.
about
21
half
up
of our
above.
stock.
So there's 126 there, and 10 there, and 30 there, and so there's 200 Chromebooks we bought last year about that,
And
which
we
is
have
about
5 years
which is about
basically
right.
left on those after this. The 2026 is when they're going to kind of go dead with end of life, right? For updates, I'm sorry. Yeah, 2026.
And that, again, is a soft date. So those Chromebooks will probably
Give or
stay
take,
useful until about 2027.
Okay.
Doing
Now, because you've got the Chromebook 360s, the Dell Chromebook 3100s, which there's not many of those, but is there really much difference in functionality for that kind of stuff, or?
Not for
So typically the most difference that you'll see between the
Yeah.
ones is if they're touchscreen or not.
budget. But
Um,
we did the
There'll be
80
some like
12
little
grand.
features with like the how much RAM is on them,
Seriously.
and
how easy they are to repair, and any like software features that are enabled. Some of them have GPS, some of them don't, because typically old ones don't have that. I don't think that it's going to be on a specific GPS on it though. Just,
In the next 2 or 3 years, we could do
but
that.
for the most part, it is
Yeah.
just the
Well, we
expiration
definitely
date and kind
Yeah.
of
Somebody
how
that's
much
used
they're
to that.
processing.
If we get a big bunch of us,
I don't want to we're going to defeat
but you don't
purpose
have
if
to buy
they
all of
want
them
to.
and talk.
We'll defeat our purpose if we buy tourists.
So yeah, let's expand on that.
We don't.
So let's say we do it, that the seniors take this
Still
home.
usable.
When would be the first year that they acquire that Chromebook, and then they would keep it?
So that was with if we do the 6-year, they would hit their update date when they go into 7th grade, and then they would have that one follow them up until senior year. At senior year would be that Chromebook's 6th year, so they would take it with them that year.
Okay. Is there anything we gain out of these Chromebooks that are expired?
We can technically use them as backups, and we can use them as kiosks, such as if we want to have like a classroom set for lower grades that they can't use for testing, because they can still do things like watch videos on them for the most part. At a certain point, even that will go away. How long that takes, I don't really know. It's hard to know for certain because it depends on when websites update and require functionality from the clients that the version of the OS that they're on doesn't have. And there's no way to predict whenever they're going to do that.
And then I would assume that since these are really cheap, actually, at $200 and some a piece, there's no trade-in for old units or anything like that.
Not really. You can scrap them for parts, and after really once the models start hitting their expiration date, people aren't looking for the parts anymore.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, sometimes the parts will carry over between models. We have that with our G5s and the G6s. They share screens even though they are separate.
After carrying them around for 6 years, they're beat up anyway.
Yeah.
They're worthless at that point. So if you let your seniors take them at the end of the year,
My only
not
other
losing anything
concern
by doing that.
The only other concern with that would be, would they still be really functional within that 6 years? Because there's a lot of technology that happens in 6 years that a senior compared to a seventh grader using it and what they're doing.
That's one of the concerns with the 6 year is that you're cutting it very close at that last year. And that's right when they're at senior year, which can be very important for their technology working properly.
Yes.
So some of the models in this changes from year to year with when their expiration dates of the ones available are, can be upwards of like 4 to 6 years out. So if we spend a little bit extra, we can stay ahead of that cleanly by getting the models that have the further updates.
You know, looking down the road just because we know it's there, there's ESSER 3 money, which we can use for that part.
Mm-hmm.
It would take care of the deficit of anything that we worried about for district money. So if we did 100 a year for the next 3 years, we know that money is available for the next 3 years. That'd get us at 300. And then we look at where we are at that point and cut back to 2 classrooms, which would be 80.
Yeah.
I mean, we're only talking now. It's going to go up. It's not going to be 250 a year from now. It's going to be 300, and it's going to go 350, and it's going to go 6,000.
No,
But not really. But it's going to go up a little more and more as it goes along. But still, yet, if we can buy 100 Chromebooks for $25,000 for the next 3 years, close to that price, and use our ESSER 3 money for that, we probably are doing the right thing to do that.
So we want to have our children technology savvy.
So
how many would we need to buy each year to do a 4-year rotation, which would be freshman through
it
senior?
would be 3 classroom sets.
So we need 120.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless we want to adjust
Which is not much different.
Well, as we start to go up, we can adjust that classroom size because the 40 definitely gets us over. We can do about 100 or 110 to get the 3 classroom sets because we actually really want to shoot more for that average of 35 because any that were extra for one class would be to cover up like the excess on the other. And this is also something where we can even watch our class size numbers and adjust the number each year as well. If we have like if enrollment is low, we can cut back on like the number that we get that year. It'd still be a good idea to try to keep it close to what we expect the maximum of classroom size to be in case we start getting more students enrolling into that class.
Yeah, and then you never know for transfers and all that.
Yeah. So having the extras makes sense.
I think we're real good for the next 3 years to even go to 120 if we wanted to. We're only talking $30,000, 120. But 100 would catch it most of the time. It'd still put us on a 4-year rotation almost.
Yeah, your first year or two would be probably your big year, though. Know that you'll have enough, and then adjust for that. Okay.
But we have a little bit of time to prepare for this because the bulk of our Chromebooks going out is going to be the next school year.
So we're good for this year, you're saying?
This year we're good. We won't have
But we
any
need to
problems.
look down the road, but we probably need to consider what we want to do so we get those bought before
It may take us a year to get.
it did last
Get
year. It
that.
takes like
Yeah.
took us a long time to get them last
Yeah.
year. But Mr. Cappy, what do you recommend we look at here?
Well, we've only got a couple more weeks to allocate our REIT money. So we want to, definitely get that going. I think 100 a year is a good number, but with the ESSER monies that's available, we've got some backup. As far as we're talking, if we use 20,000 in REIT money, you're only talking $10,000 of district monies that you're going to have to put into that,
Everything, yeah.
and
That's
and that's
very
nothing.
feasible.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's nothing for technology supply,
Yes.
and equipment. So even if it's extra that you put into that budget line, so anywhere between 100, 120. What concerns me is next year when you have several that's going to come up and not be able to be updated again. So if we did the 120 and we got another 120 next fall, that's going to push you a whole lot closer to being able to cycle those old ones out.
Yeah.
We almost need to get those 100 now, and then as soon as school starts, Jump
Send
again.
Do it
order
again.
them 1st of July.
jump again at the same number. And
Because the REIT monies or whatever monies we use will still be allocated.
you can almost guarantee that 35,000 from REAP to be there
Mm-hmm.
for us.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not going to change. Might even get higher. So that would be good. But anyway,
We get it in time for him to get it.
As long as we're not taking away from other things that money has been used for. That's why I was asking, do we spend the 33 each year on TVs and
Yeah, I mean,
all that? Are we gonna?
A lot of it is technology, Chromebooks, things
Yeah.
like that. Now,
But I'm
phone.
my thing
They let you
is
use phone. They phone. They let you. They'll let you do phone
I don't
anymore, do
think
they?
so, huh?
No.
my thing is if we use 20,000 of the REIT money, but we spend 33,000 to buy other things, are we going to
No,
have to
we
make up
don't.
the 20,000 to buy the other things?
Yeah,
That's my question.
We don't spend 33,000 on other things. Most of it is used for Chromebooks,
Okay.
technology.
Very good.
If you use 20,000 in a REIT, you still got 13,000 left for TVs.
And you think that's
And we used it for some
sufficient?
security cameras last year. So, it's kind of any of that technology that you need. But I think we
100
probably
would
need
be-
about 7 TVs.
I'm even good with
Is
the
that
120 for the
close?
first round to make sure we're
That's not even 7,000.
we're going to have a big
Already
push next
upgraded
2
most
years.
of that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
So,
So do we need
Do we
to?
need a motion for that?
well, since it's over 15 grand, I think it'd be,
we'll have to bid it.
yeah, you'll have to collect some bids on it.
So then you'll just bring that back to us?
Well, I'd like for you to go ahead and approve it so that he could allocate it because we need to allocate the REIT money. So
Okay,
just
I'll-
went, with his best bid.
I'll do that. I'll make a motion for approval for 120 units for Chromebooks.
I second.
Motion by Mr. Birdsong, second by Ms. Melfield for the purchase of 120 Chromebooks during the 2021, 21,
Would that be-
22 school year.
Yeah, that's
That's where we're
right.
gonna be here in just about
Yeah.
6 weeks.
We're about done with that.
All right? And then we'll get bids to whatever's the best bid there for those mounds of Chromebooks.
Okay.
Sound right? Okay. Do we have we have carts for all those already? Let me come back to that. Let me take care of his motion first. Is there any more further
We better
discussion?
on that.
Any further discussion on this? Seeing them, proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Okay. Do you have Chrome? Do you have
We have
places to
carts-
put them?
We have carts in our elementary rooms,
Okay.
and then the ones for the junior high and high school, the students.
They have their bags or whatever?
Yep.
Okay. All right. And everybody, we have all that. We don't need any additional of that.
No.
Okay. That was my question.
Okay, now the only additional part I have is when do we need to purchase the next round? What time do we need to consider that so we don't miss that? we're gonna do this now, but
Yeah.
do we need to look at buying the next ones like
July.
July?
July,
Okay,
as soon as the next budget year comes around.
okay.
We need to get those purchased.
And if these purchased in this physical and then mine.
So
Just
that
make
way
sure I don't
it's,
forget. I got it.
yeah,
Locked
sure.
away now.
Yeah, I'll remember that in the next 3 seconds.
Awesome.
Okay. I think we're good, Jake. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Appreciate the information.
Yeah. We're to item C on your action items for the dates for candidate filing for the April school board elections. As you'll see, we're asking you to consider the dates being December 7th, which is the first date you can sign up for candidate C, through December 16th. That's our day that we're here at school. And then December 17th was a half a day, so we'll be here till 1 o'clock. And then December 28th, which is the last day of filing, to be here available for anyone wanting to sign from noon till 5, because they ask you to stay open till 5 o'clock
Yeah.
on the last day. So any discussion of those dates, or is everybody okay with those dates? If you're good with the dates, we need a motion to approve the dates for filing.
I make a motion to set those dates.
Okay,
as stated.
Adam's motion to accept the dates
Second.
mentioned, second by Ms. Millfield. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0. We're ready for our special education update. Mr. Talent?
I had put a letter in the shared drive that Dr. Gabby had sent out to you guys.
Mhm.
Are there any questions on that information right now that you guys have questions that I could address first thing? In particular?
Why don't you give us a little breakdown of what you have, where we are as far as on our special education program and how
As
many
far
kids?
as numbers?
Numbers.
Okay, so the back page of that I had put some numbers in there. As of last week, our number of active IEPs was 89. I would tell you that number is going to go up because we have at least 4 transfers that we are currently processing from other districts still. The number of active 504 plans is 14, and the number of service plans is 1. A service plan is a student who is technically a homeschooled student, but since they reside in the Newburg district and we have to follow child find, we have to offer some sort of special services, and he qualifies for a variety of services currently. And so that's what that's a service plan. It's like an IEP, but it's not public school, it's homeschool.
We have 14 active 504.
Correct.
That district wide.
Yes. Yes. And this is K-12. Yeah. There's no PEEPS 504s.
That seems excessive.
There are 2 504 referrals that are still being worked on, but only one of those is active. The other has not had any response from the parent.
Most of those requests are limited time anyway, correct?
It can be.
And can be handled without an active 504.
Yeah. In a 504, they say you need to do it in a timely manner, but I'm not going to tell you what that timely manner is. It's a lot different than the IEP side, timeline-wise.
Yes.
A lot of districts want to go ahead and follow that IEP timeline, but there is no set timeline structure for a 504. It's work on it as you can. That's why I consider that one still out there, but it's not active. So, and the number of students with speech language services is 38. Number of students who receive PT services is 2. Number of students who receive OT services is 23. Number of students with speech, language, and OT is 15. And the number of students with speech, language, OT, and PT is 2.
What was that last one? How many?
2 that have all 3 related or direct services. That's not just education.
Said we had 4 incoming IEP transfers. Do we have any referrals that we haven't processed yet?
For IEPs, there are 3 currently being
3.
processed. And 2 more that came to my desk today. So that 8 is 10 now. And those are coming from teachers, and I'm sorry, that number is now 11 because I have one parent that has sent me an email this yesterday.
You know where we were last year
I do not know.
for
I don't know
IEPs?
that.
Okay. Where are we at? Total enrollment 390. Are we that high?
380 something.
Like 382.
382 total.
Is that
Is that-
pre-K-12?
Does
or
that
just
count
K-12?
pre-K or just K-12? How many is that? How many's in peeps? 30?
17 and
And
about
30.
30.
just over.
So 350?
Yeah,
so how many?
about 350 K-12.
We have
350.
89
Sorry, sorry,
IEPs.
That was including peeps.
Oh, okay.
He said, so if we have no one in peeps, and that's 350. So what's 89 divided by
Well, plus he
350?
has, plus 11 more
Yeah.
he's working on, so that's an even 100.
Okay, so
Well,
100,
35
that's 35%.
Where are my kids?
Plus my 504s. We're right around 115. Let's just say 115
67.
divided by 350.
I don't
looking
know.
at 6% K-12.
Okay.
And right now, your peeps are set up to be as close to 50-50 as possible, but those numbers are going to be like just staggered one way or the other right now.
Sure.
So,
And what we face with the 3-year-olds is as soon as they have their birthday and become 3, they qualify for services.
well, first steps.
Sure.
First steps is really funneling them in currently. And I was talking to our ECSE process coordinator this afternoon, and her and I agreed that at this rate, we are going to max out the 3-year-old room by February, where it cannot accept anymore.
And we
that
can do
number's
that,
20.
right? We can say we can't have any more.
That number's 20. Yeah.
Do we need another
Uh-uh.
pair?
Well, I don't know about that, but we can discuss that. I don't know. That could maybe.
There has been some concerns coming from those rooms about a possible separate breakdown that they are really wanting to start looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that'd be for you to figure out and bring to
Yes, absolutely.
whoever will take it from there. But
Yeah,
but I mean that's the challenge.
but I just want to let you know that conversation has started.
Sure, understand. Well, we want to do what's right for any kid and every kid. So
Well, and as I've sat in IEP meetings and they've dismissed, we've really talked about, students who start kindergarten now who don't do preschool. You cannot even believe how far delayed they are from their peers who have been in the preschool setting.
I don't doubt that.
And what even I did in kindergarten is what they're now required. Like, well, now what PEEP's expectations are.
Sure, and it's things
And
have
so now,
changed
like,
drastically.
what second grade would have been is now what kindergarten expectations
Right.
are. Their learning expectations, I am just amazed what they're doing kindergartners now.
I understand.
Now,
Anything you need in the department that you're struggling with? I mean,
Just time.
sure. That's now you got Saturday and Sunday. What are you doing?
Yeah, I know.
And if you're
No.
sleeping at 3 a.m, that's your fault.
In our
My dad used to
junior
always
high
say.
school resource room, we are starting to build more direct instruction courses for students,
Okay,
which means that they are not going to the general ed for that particular subject. They're going straight to the special education teacher. And because of that, we ordered some curriculums.
saw that,
Yeah.
but that's needed.
And that's what that's going for.
That's fine, that's good. We need
Dr.
to use
Caffey
it.
and I kind of talked about it. And we ordered the curriculums that match the EOC subjects first.
Good.
And then Mrs. Hanson and I have already talked about the next phase of curriculum that we're going to need.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Talent?
Just think he's kind of overloaded on IEPs. I've been over numerous having
He's plenty busy. If he's meetings, he's scheduling 3 meetings a day to try to get that taken care of.
We've had a week, haven't we, Mr. Shaw? Mr. Clark.
Man, there's lots of things happening, so. If there's things there that we need to be addressed, make sure you're talking to Dr. Caffey, and I'm sure he'll bring it to us so that we can take care of it as soon as possible. So we can help you as much as we can help you. And again, our only goal is to educate the very best we can. Okay.
Anybody else? Any questions?
Any questions, Mr. Talent? You don't need to prove anything, do you?
No, it's just information.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Student handbook and athletic handbook, which is the draft. Mr. Shaw, you want to address that?
Mr. Clark and I were working on some things with our student handbook, and we just wanted to give you guys an update on some updates to the handbook that we were looking at having. We wanted to put some wording in there that if you are responsible for filming an infraction in the discipline code, that you would receive that punishment for that infraction, to include that with them. So for example, if Dr. Caffey is recording Mr. Clark and I fighting and then posting that on the internet, he would be responsible for the same thing that
I see.
Discipline that we would get.
Yeah.
Something along those lines of
Sure.
putting that wording in there.
Sure.
We feel like a big part of some of our infractions right now are because of the audience that they're creating, and so if we can try to reduce that audience, we'll reduce those infractions too. So,
Sure.
I know there's a trend that has not hit us as hard as some other schools, but there's some trends with posting inappropriate behavior at school on different media outlets.
So you're
TikTok
not saying
thing
they
that
can't
we're talking
record
about.
it. You're just saying they can't.
Yeah, Fight Club.
Yeah.
No, or record it. Yeah, we were talking about recording it too.
They do.
Would it be the same if they brought that directly to you,
Pull it up on your.
Because that could be.
or would you prefer they
I mean,
do?
if a student was to record an infraction in order to show us what happened.
Yes.
Right, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that would be viewed differently than
Okay.
creating the audience.
Yeah, got you.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I know.
You happy, Mr. Evans?
Is that the only one for the handbook? Is for
Yeah,
that?
unless there was anything you wanted to add.
That's, I mean, that we were talking about, yeah.
Okay. Are you gonna put out, I mean, you'll have to put out to
Yeah.
your staff, to your student body, what changes you did there, so that's well publicized of what you, and the consequence that goes with that, so that everybody gets
Aware
that.
ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So I'm not opposed to that at all. And again, that's not for approval, because
No, that's
that allows you to make
document.
these changes right now that we need to make. But I do appreciate thinking ahead, trying to get a curb on that, because let's do a TikTok thing, and then or top tick or whatever that clock thing is that they do. These kids, that crap. I don't know what all that is. It's like book face or all that.
By the time we figure it
Right,
out,
hits you.
My technology skills are very limited. If you ask anybody,
It's not, Doug, it is not apparent at all. I think,
well, that's
I
good.
think it doesn't.
I'm glad I mask it well. But You know, I don't, that's just junk, and if we can curb it best you can. So I'm good with that. I have no problem with that. And I think if you're gonna post that, then there should be some consequence to that. So I'm fully in favor of that. Anybody have any discussion on that, that I can shut up?
Is
Because
this
that's what
just
you're all
about
thinking.
the,
You're all thinking, I sure hope Smith shuts up in a minute.
Moving right along.
Moving right along. Okay,
Seems to rhyme with
that's the handbook. Okay, athletic handbook, you want to discuss that?
So for the athletic handbook, there, that was a draft that was uploaded.
I recognize that.
Yeah, it's got
Yeah.
mascot bears and lady bears. And
There's probably still some editing
Some
we gotta
edits.
do on that.
There is some edits coming. I know that in our grading policy and in our attendance are two areas that will be changing. Yeah, it was obviously
Used.
borrowed material.
Borrowed
yeah,
material.
Yeah,
But that's good.
but
There's
that
no
was a-
sense in rewriting everything if
that
you
was a
can borrow.
template that we used
Sure.
to get started, and
can I ask why? I mean, other than I know Doug wanted it. I mean, I know that's what Doug wanted. But
You're right.
what we had in the past here worked just fine. And we had all of our other stuff in our handbook that covered everything else.
the
So I don't understand.
But it didn't cover your coaches or your people.
Well,
or
but that's
your- or
something
your-
that's in a personnel handbook. If you want to do with your coaches and other things like that. But well,
Go ahead.
I mean, no, it's because it's just going to make you mad.
No, it won't make me mad. I'm just gonna disagree.
I just
with
don't
you.
understand. I don't understand why. Well, it doesn't do any good though if coaches and nobody puts them out and gives them to them anyway. So I just whatever.
I don't know that I saw what we had in the past. Steve, what
You
was
had to sign it. It's been here since 1978, and it's been fixed
I don't
all the way
recall.
through. As times change, obviously we have to change,
Yes.
but it worked. I mean, it covered everything from it just worked. But what happens is sometimes you get coaches that come along that don't enforce policies, just like we had principals that don't enforce. It just doesn't work if you don't follow them. It's just like this. This isn't going to mean anything or a handbook or anything if we don't follow them.
Yes.
But my thing is those rules, and to me, they were pretty simple. And we never had a whole lot of discipline problems when it come to our student athletes in the past until recent years. And I understand what, so many of these things that are in here, I mean, the attendance, now the random drug testing, again, that was something that was newer, that wasn't in that could have been added to that. I've preached forever about having preseason parent meetings. And as it was always left to the discretion of the coach. I had mine, but I don't know. Sometimes you can get too wordy, and then it causes more problems. And I think that you the more you put in here, the more you're going to be left up to interpretation for. I don't know. I just kind of.
You like your sheet, right?
I sure like Melvin Bailey.
Okay, I'm not saying you shouldn't like it.
But I'm saying that it a lot of it doesn't. You can have all this stuff you want, but
I
if
agree.
you don't have the people in place to make it happen, it
You can write
doesn't
all the
matter.
books you want, but unless
You can
have
put this
people-
handbook out, and if you don't make them sign the sheet at the end, you
But-
can put it out for nothing.
Because we had a situation that you and I discussed that,
Sure.
that should have never happened. Would have never even happened had they done what they were supposed to do. And
Now,
again, when you get too much wording in here,
last year, if you remember, when we were going through some of the athletic things, we got that sheet that gave the rules and if it had to be signed by the student athlete
and the parents.
and the parent. I don't think that sheet was used this year.
And I thought we made it very clear
Is
that they
that-
were too.
Is that true? were you given sheets to give to your players? I guess that's the
No.
question I'm gonna ask you,
Yeah,
Mr. Birdsall.
so,
As you're the
I was-
baseball coach, I'm just gonna ask you,
No,
were you given the sheet?
no, I created my own parent meeting sheet and did all that.
And then,
So,
We have a
So we
score
did-
sheet.
so that's Mr. Guffey's frustration.
see,
is-
and we even had this in this, and we sat here as a board, and we said, and we voted as a board that was going to happen. It was gonna happen,
We were gonna.
and it didn't happen. So this is what frustrates me.
That's his
what-
We
frustration.
always had to sign one when I played.
Everybody did. I
Every
did.
year.
Everybody, if you played,
we
I
were
know you
held to
did.
it.
You did.
That was the big difference, though. We were held to it. If we were caught doing something wrong,
Anything comes down to how well you're held to it. Anyway, it comes down to, any discipline actions or any discipline
But
code
why
that
were
you
those
have.
sheets not handed out?
Well, that's a whole nother
That
subject.
was something that we made it very clear, because again, that goes back to the question of what I've always said about preventive discipline. Most people don't even know what that is, apparently, when we interviewed. You can prevent so many things from happening that you don't have to deal with discipline wise if you just do the little things.
That's right.
I'll shut up.
Your point's well taken. Point is right on the money. But, for me, the handbook then becomes a document that, here's all the expectations of everybody involved.
The one thing that I saw in this draft here that we were presented kind of relates a little bit to what Steve's talking about and holding accountability, because it actually has parts in there for and maybe it doesn't have to be in here, maybe it's in another book or whatever, but
Sure.
the responsibilities and what the coach is held to, because it spells out that you will have a parent meeting in there. And it also says that if your student plans to participate in an extracurricular, whether it be whatever, FFA, beta, because all that stuff is kind of listed in
You got
there.
it listed in here.
That all that stuff, then a parent or guardian has to attend or meet with the AD to sign off that they've been given this information,
Before
or
they play.
your student doesn't participate.
That's right.
Newburg used to do that.
So
We always had
That's
Well,
Mr.
that's kinda-
Guffey's point.
yeah,
They
to a
were
certain
used to do
extent. To a certain extent,
I don't have a problem with the handbook, because the handbook philosophy is basically what you get out of MSHA. That's basically just MSHA's
Yeah.
guideline. That's why I didn't feel like we really need to have it, because if you look at that, a lot of that's in MSHA's handbook. That is MSHA through and through. Doug took it and made it personal for his school district. Makes perfect sense, because most people don't have access or don't understand the access that they have to the MSHA handbook. This gives them that access to what MSHA is saying. Ours, though, was a little bit more on a personal level, is the part that we're missing the boat on, in my opinion. Because if you give people the access to the MSHA handbook, they're not going to read it. Not very many will. And Doug took because this handbook, it's a good handbook. I'm not going to deny that. But it's the fact that, why waste more paper?
1 page to 20 pages.
Yeah, I don't know. But
why not break it down and look at it and see if we can't just put what we had in there too? I mean, it's the ending of the page to sign to.
all your coaches have to be on the same page, but more importantly, in the same book.
Yeah.
I mean, if
It wasn't in a package.
you don't get that happening,
Steve read it by himself. Do you even know what piece of paper we're talking about?
I think it's a contract.
Yes.
It's the player contract, which I think is still kind of dumb. I don't want to say that it's dumb,
that was voted. Oh my God!
because I don't think that we did that for baseball.
You should have.
I don't think that we did.
And they did go out in the
I'm trying to remember, because I know we had parent meeting and we went through because each coach has their own list of parent stuff, and that varies a little bit from coach to coach.
It shouldn't.
It has the same general information, but some of it's a little more specific to that sport and that kind of thing. But I don't recall that we did that for fall baseball. I don't want to 100% say no, but I don't recall that we did that.
Did we have a coaches meeting in the very
Let's-
beginning for
Yes.
school with all coaches and administrators?
Yes, because Mr. Shaw was there.
Okay. let's go back to the handbook a minute. And this is a rough draft. It's not anything that's going out anywhere.
No, we don't
So
have to.
what suggestions do you have for Mr. Shaw to go work more on this? Do you want him to make it simpler? Is it too much?
My question would be, if we leave it as this is, and it's several pages, with the coaches, are you going to have them at the parent meeting go through basically page by page at that meeting, so they know what they're signing, I guess, and have it signed at the end of that parent meeting that they understand almost word for word.
Did yours have to
Is that,
sign it?
is that what we're looking for?
We're looking for a signed we're looking for a signed document that said, yes, I read this document. Or we're looking for a signed sheet of paper or contract that says, hey, I read this handbook. I know my expectations. I know what I'm under expectation. I know what my kid's under expectation of, and I know what the school is telling me is going to happen if they don't follow that. Plain and simple. That's all it ever did.
Yeah.
That's all it's ever for.
And different schools do that differently.
Yeah.
I mean, some at their parent meeting go through every line in the handbook. Some just go through and highlight certain points that they want to make sure that they hear, and some, just take parents at their word that they sign off that back page that they read it, that they read it. So everybody does that a little bit different. But
We just ran through the highlights of it in the parent meeting and then we took questions if they had, because many had questions, especially the first couple of years we did it, because, it's new. So your first couple of years are harder because they have lots of questions.
Now, would a parent, if you have a student that does baseball, softball, basketball, and then track, would they have to do this for each sport or just one time?
One time.
One time.
It was a 360.
But understand that they'd have to come to the parent meetings, both, for those spring session, winter session, fall session.
Yeah.
And so they'd have to come to the parent meeting 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah. They still need to go to each individual sport
Because
parent meeting
it's
it's a different sport.
I mean, a little different. If the coach had a
totally,
meeting, then of course you'd have a coach's meeting too. That's totally different. That's up to the coach. Coach didn't have to have a coach's meeting, but most of them did. Anyway, any discussion, any direction you'd like to see Mr. Shaw go with, or have the AD go with the continued writing of because right now it's a borrowed document. That's just the truth. That's what it is. It's okay. We can bend it, twist it.
there were some things we kind of twisted already.
There's a few, but
yeah,
there's still, there's more to twist, but
yeah.
anywhere,
We have more to twist it.
what's your opinion of where it is at the moment, and where would you like for it to go? Don't answer that, Mr. Cuffy.
I don't know. I agree with Steve that it is kind of wordy, but at the same time, as he said, a lot of parents aren't going to go out and look for this basic guidance. So it's good that they can have one spot to get most of it. But I don't think that it's a bad
I
thing.
think we should keep some of Newburg, the letter in there that they signed, that they agree. The parents sign it and the kids sign it. Both of them do.
Well, they have to sign this document too. Same. And then there's a signature page at the end.
I'm looking.
Is there anything that's in our student athlete contract, or what I call athlete, because it may not pertain to all that, but that contract that's not included in this document? That one page that we had, is there?
Yeah,
anything-
it goes more in depth of, again, it covers more of MSHA breakdown of a lot of different things. That contract was more of a Newburg school district specific, like the simple rules of if you don't come to school, you don't play. If you don't come to school, you don't practice. If you have to come to school the day after a game.
Because that's all
those little things
The
that,
day after.
and then it had the things, because we've revised it, the board revised it 3 times while I was an administrator, because it dealt, when it came up to the, with smoking, became less of an issue, when alcohol became more of an issue, and drugs and things. So you revamp, because at the same time, it has to correlate with your student handbook. You've got to, there has to be that correlation there. You can't, but what people forget is activities in athletics are a privilege. They are not a right. You have the right to a free and public education, but you do not have the right to play basketball, baseball, golf.
Any activity.
It's a privilege.
Yeah.
And people forget
Over the
that.
bus.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna be a
They're riding
priv,
bus.
if you're gonna be a,
My son's learning that lesson.
if you're gonna be a privilege to represent the school district, then to me, you're held at a higher standard of behavior.
You bet. I agree totally. Totally.
So,
Why could you not? I'm just asking. Why could you not just provide them, if you wanted to include all the MSHA rules, provide them a copy of it at your coaches meeting, but keep your document that's signed at the simple one page.
Right. And that's,
That way they have it available if
That's-
they want it, but they don't have to sign that full document.
that's what's available. It's, yeah, I get to it.
But they need to know that they need to come to school the day
Well,
after.
sure. That
Because
would be-
that's important. You know, just because you went and played.
That would either be on the
10 o'clock.
contract that they sign or in the handbook that they're signing that they read the contract. I mean,
That's
or
right.
they read the handbook, either one.
and MSHA only has policy on
I think,
games,
yeah.
on being, the school districts have policies on practices.
I think
And, that's where
Good place to start is look at that one sheet contract and see if there's anything missing in there that we didn't get in the handbook. Because we want to make it Newburg, as much as anything. So if we've missed something in that contract that's not in this write-up, maybe we should find a spot. I mean, I would suggest find a spot to put it. That'd be a way to
I mean, I think you
That'd be a way
excuse them if
to
they were sick and they went
make
to the
it
doctor or
ours
something.
instead of
they've got
all
something,
borrowed.
yeah.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
But just because you're tired.
That's it.
That makes it where it's more ours instead of all borrowed.
Seeing what
Did you?
maybe the easier way is we have our one-page contract, which basically covers pretty much everything that's in this handbook document. The handbook document goes into a little bit more detailed explanation, I think, to a
More
certain
about
extent.
MSHA.
But maybe the part they sign is that one-page contract, but we have the handbook and whatnot to review if we want. But I don't just.
That's what I
out
was
there. So, instead of signing at the end of the handbook, they actually have to sign that one-page contract that we've always had. But we have the handbook available. For
One thing I would add, and this is up to you, but one thing I always did is whenever when in basketball, when they would change rules like the backcourt rule or different rules, I made sure my parents knew so they didn't sound so stupid when they were up there yelling and a referee when a rule changed.
Oh, yeah. What's new? Yeah.
Yeah, what's new? A lot of times, sometimes, of course, now I don't know how you would add it in every year, but it would
That could
be
be in your coach's meeting, though.
yeah, something, because one thing, that does,
Okay.
I mean, they do change some of the rules of basketball that I don't understand. But, used to you couldn't go in and rebound on a free throw until the ball hit the rim. And then it went back to where as soon as it left the shooter's hand. And, if we don't inform our fans, then, sometimes they can.
Yeah.
You think?
A little silly.
Let's look at how ways we can combine a little bit to make it as much as Newburg as we can. I think that would help us a lot. And that isn't something we have to have next month, okay? Okay. But anyway, okay. If you have suggestions as you think of them later and sleep on this and think on it later, please get hold of Mr. Shaw and Dr. Caffey so that they can pass that on to our AD so that as they work on it, they can make those suggestions to us. And as you make those updates, maybe shoot us an email with what you've done so we can look at that while we're going along. Okay? Anything else for the handbook or athletic handbook? I get back to where we were.
Number F.
Oh, we're down to the last thing here. Our December meeting is set for December 16th. Does anyone see an issue with that?
Okay.
That's about the only time that we're probably going to be able to do it. If you move it up, it's probably gonna be cutting it really close for payables.
Yep. So 16th okay for everybody? Okay, we'll leave it at the 16th. Anything else from anybody in open session that we need to have? Not, I entertain a motion to adjourn open
Motion.
session. Motion by Mr.
Me
Guppy,
too.
second by Mr. Shoeshank. Any further discussion? Seeing none, proceed to vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye, motion
Okay,
carries
so I'm
5-0.
Here, on the record, off the record. I just want to say that the communication has greatly improved this year amongst the staff,
Okay.
and the parents.